You're not ready yet. You're 19 and you've played 6 matches.
I think Oscar's going to be filing all of this stuff away, and he's going to use this. It'll just be in the back of his mind. I'll do the team thing. I'll move over for you this year.
Well, Oscar won his first race and Lando ruined it.
All right, g'day everyone. We're going to kick off with some Formula One. Pretty wild race, Mertz. It's just great when you see that aquaplaning and the guys have got virtually no vision. We had the United colours of Benetton with the flags. We had yellow, we had red, we had green, we had a black with Hulkenberg.
Confirmation that Hulkenberg received outside assistance, which is why he was shown the black flag. That flag is to disqualify a driver from the race.
Yeah.
Everything you could ask for in a race. But just before we get stuck into that, we just wanted to go back to the sprint race because pretty controversial with what ended up happening, and obviously it impacted our Aussie boy Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, not proud about it, but we worked well as a team together, so I thank Oscar. No, but we've done a great job as a team. Today was the result that we wanted. Oscar deserved it, but yeah, we're doing what we have to do. So I thank him and the team, and we had great pace. So looking forward to qualifying in the race tomorrow.
Well, yes, it's probably the most hollow victory Lando Norris will ever have. And I'm actually kind of glad now that Max has all but pretty much wrapped up the thing, unless he has a catastrophic final 3 races and crashes out. It's pretty much Max's to lose from here. But if Lando went on to win the World Championship, this would have been Lando's version of Max's win over Lewis in his first World Championship, because it's pretty embarrassing for the entire sport when you have to get your teammate to move out of the way. Like, there's no meritocracy in F1 when you're telling one of your teammates who's won the race, he qualified fastest, was winning the race from beginning to end, and then you go, nah, step aside so your mate can go through.
Do not take that risk. Immediately, McLaren give the call to Oscar Piastri to prioritise the highest McLaren driver in the Drivers' World Championship. And after all of the speculation, all of the debate, Piastri plays the team game and Lando Norris leads.
It just takes so much of the luster off the win. And if he won the world title, I think it would have been McLaren won Lando the world title, not Lando winning the world title. And I feel like even though I wouldn't go with an asterisk, it kind of gives an asterisk in everyone's mind that Lando didn't win the world title. He was handed it because his teammate was good.
See, I disagree. I agree that it's hollow and it's not a good look. But I think we've sort of become accustomed to this. I remember it being a huge controversy sort of years ago when, are you allowed to let your teammate through? They banned that. They allowed it again, team orders, all this kind of stuff. But it's a terrible look. And the person I feel the worst for is Oscar Piastri, because he deserved to win that race, albeit a sprint race. But, mate, he needs the points. He needs everything he can do. You can understand why the team wants to do it. I get that it's hollow, but if you're just looking, it's a numbers game. They want to win the world title. They want to do whatever they can. I mean, Ricciardo pulling out a fastest lap to give Max an extra point. It's all tactical. It's all points. It's all doing what you can to get on top of the Drivers' Championship. So very hollow. And I don't think Lando would really enjoy it either, but he needs the points.
That's what he said after. He was saying that it's not the way that you want to win a race.
Yeah, but he still took the position. I mean, he still took the position. Exactly. He still knows he needs the points.
Yeah, but it's happened not in every race or anything like that. And it's since we've had the team orders, it's not really been that much of an issue. But it's just an embarrassing look. It's really an embarrassing look when you're talking about how they're teammates, but they're not really. They're kind of direct competitors when you've got teammates in F1. But then you're making one teammate bend over backwards for the other one. So is Lando going to do that next year when Oscar starts really well?
Exactly, and I think that's a big point. I think in a lot of ways, Oscar's already showed that he's a better driver, and he's shown that in a lot of different circumstances. I mean, fuck me, stop you if you've heard this before, but Lando couldn't hold down a pole position. But just on that, I reckon I think Oscar's going to be filing all of this stuff away, and he's going to use this. It'll just be in the back of his mind. All right, mate, I'll do the team thing. I'll move over for you this year, but going forward, let's see what happens. And I can see him just going past Lando, and I'd love to see roles reversed, which we don't really get to see very often, where suddenly the number 2 guy is number 1, and now Lando has to do the team thing. Can you imagine him trying to swallow his pride and let him take over? I don't know.
Well, look at that when Oscar had basically won his first. Well, Oscar won his first race, and Lando ruined it by refusing to yield.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's team orders when it suits you.
Yeah, but then it's just ugly and it's hollow, and it was hollow for Piastri winning that race.
But I'd still rather
his moment.
Yeah, I'd still rather that it's somewhat transparent and we know it's happening and we know why they're doing it, sort of thing. I don't know. It's an ugly look.
We know why they're doing it, but I just hate it. It's just an embarrassing look for the sport because it's an individual sport. It is an individual sport, and you want them to just go out and race. And that was the best part of this race. This race was so fascinating because there was just all this little crap going on all the way through. It was just absolutely riveting because you just don't know if someone's going to go off, someone's going to break and just clip the line, and like Sainz crashed into the wall by just barely breaking on the white line. And it's just those little moments. And Max, actually, I'll jump onto Max. Max showed that he's the best driver on the grid to me. This was a phenomenal drive. And from the first lap, that first lap really set up his race, coming from 17th, taking 7 places, and that overtake he took on the first corner, coming on the second lap, it was incredible. He was incredible. He looked like he was driving dries compared to everyone else. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. It was one of those races where the cameraman couldn't keep up. I mean, every few minutes there was someone else spinning off the track or going into the barriers. But mate, I was going to say the same thing. This is the race where Max sealed, a 4th world title, and he was the clear driver of the day.
The Dutchman has delivered a defining drive. He climbs the hill back to Grand Prix victory. Max Verstappen wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in 2024.
And that spot you're talking about, that turn, is it turn 1? Or
I think it was turn 1. Maybe I'm wrong.
And he used that same spot again and again to keep picking up place after place
but he was the only one who could do it, and he was taking a shallow turn into the corner. Everyone else was going wide and cutting in.
And when he took Piastri, when he did it to Piastri for about 6th or 7th, it was like, holy shit, he's just doing it to everybody. They're not seeing it coming. They're thinking no one's got the balls to make that pass on the inside, and he just kept doing it. So phenomenal drive from him. We can get into the red flag and what it meant, and Lando bitching and moaning about it and whatever. The rules are the rules. As we talked about off camera, that stay out there. You know what's coming.
Well, it's a wet race. Honestly, if you have to pit in the 50th lap of the race, who cares? Stay out there long enough, because if everyone else is staying out there, the tyres on every car are starting to degrade. There is going to be a crash. You hope it's not you, but you also hope it's not you on any corner. Lando, after he came back on, he was trying to make up positions, obviously.
But he was
all over the place and driving off the track. And you could just see he was panicking, and Max was just cool as a cucumber. He was just so good. It's one of those races where you look back at the end of the year and you go, wow, Max really had it up against him this year. But that's the race where you go, he is a true world champion. That is a true world champion drive.
The first half of the year set up this championship win for him, which he can actually secure it this week in 2 weeks' time in Vegas. He can win it just with that points gap now. But just the difference in temperament with Max just being so cool and calm, but still taking some calculated risks in the wet, which takes some stones on its own. And I think also you keep seeing Lando panic, and particularly on the first lap. I think this is his 9th world title that he hasn't, 9th pole position where he hasn't been in front, at the end of the first turn or whatever it is, or the first lap. And then he drives angry. He loses the position to George Russell, and then he's pissed off, and then he's attacking and holding guys off and driving the way that he should from the second the lights go out. It's like, what are you doing, mate? There's something not there with him, which Oscar's already showed that he does seem to have the temperament to hold that down. No, you're not overtaking me. I'm blocking every position. I'm getting out of here. Lando just can't get it right. How many times is he going to f it up without working it out?
I bet that Oscar will win a world title before Lando does.
Yeah, we've both said it this year, haven't we? He just looks more measured, more risks, but like calculated risks. And Lando just seems to be missing something. Look, Helmut Marko came out with some pretty disparaging comments in the last few weeks, basically questioning his mental fortitude, which is pretty murky, pretty grey area.
He's not in the room. He's not in the room with Lando. But this was Max. This was Max before he won a world title. I'm sure if Lando got the win, it would push him over the edge where he wouldn't. He would have that. I'm a world champion and I've done it.
I'm not sure because Max was like 21. He was just a kid trying to sort himself out, and then he kind of matured and got better. I think Lando's already a bit older and doesn't have that world title, so I do think there's a bit of a deficiency there somewhere in his driving. I don't think he will win a world title.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. Yeah, Oscar will move into number one next year, and give the McLaren the best shot at winning a title at least.
I can't wait to see what the cars are like next year because we know that there's such small differences between some of the cars and the drivers. If you've got a better car, I just wanted to say, by the way, McLaren looked like they were going to own this weekend. They looked so good in the sprints and whatever, in the qualifying for the sprints, and then do fall in the race and fall down in the constructors and the drivers' championship.
I mean, yeah, you can't help the weather. The weather changes everything. You're like, who would predict that Alpine would finish second and third, that Ocon would lead the race until Max took him over, that they would hang on to that. I mean, like that's a story in itself, that Alpine came from 9th to 6th this weekend, made themselves millions of dollars just on the luck of the wet.
And seeing the team celebrating on the finish line was fantastic. I mean, these are guys that are battling for 15th every race after race after race. So to get P2 and P3 up there, get on the podium, awesome.
I mean, let's hope it happens again next year with Jack in the car. Jack Dillon, get him a podium in an Alpine.
All right, mates, we're going to go through a bit of cricket. It's getting hot outside. We're getting close to the summer of cricket. It feels like it's been a bloody long build-up, but we're going to have the ODI series, the 2020 series, but maybe old cricket stalwarts like us, it's the Test series that I really can't wait for. I can't wait for India to get here. I think it's going to be awesome. The word of the year is opener, and who's going to fill it for Australia? Let me just start off by saying Cricket Australia have put themselves in this position because, in my opinion, held on to David Warner for far too long and didn't have any sort of succession plan. I'm not saying there was someone knocking down the door, but I still think they should have started this process rather than waiting till a 37-year-old bloke finally said, I'll go, and then said, I'm still around, I'm still available. But look,
I was joking.
Yeah, but he was not joking. The fact that Candace had to come out and school him, he was not joking. But look, there's a number of names in the mix, and I think this Australia A, India A game really was a bit like a bat off. And Constas to me was always too young anyway, but he failed, and he's got lots of time up his sleeve. A year ago, I thought Bancroft was the man with all the Shield runs he was getting, but he hasn't maintained that level. I think it's passed him by. Yes. I don't have any interest in Marcus Harris. So to me, it is Nathan McSweeney is the one. And he's not an opener, but he's shown the temperament. He had an 88 not out and a 30-odd in the Australia A game to win the game. I think he captains his state with South Australia. He's a 25-year-old. We've had a ton of openers that started off as middle order players, your Boonies and your Langers and all these kind of guys. So it's not unprecedented. So he seems the right fit at the right time for me. What are your thoughts?
Yes, the bat off was a very. I don't think it was as much a bat off as it seemed. Bancroft can't buy a run this year, so it kind of rules him out to me because he scores a lot of runs in Western Australia, which we kind of need for the first test. But at the moment, he can't buy a run, so I think he rules himself out. Marcus Harris has shown that he is not a test player. He is a phenomenal Shield player, but I actually have him in the same kind of camp as Sean Marsh, where I always thought Sean Marsh was an exceptional domestic player, but he wasn't a test player and scored centuries and great, but he just couldn't quite make the leap to the next level. Constas is a very interesting one because he really came to the fore by hitting 2 centuries in one game.
Yeah.
And they were his first 2 centuries in first-class cricket. So I agree with you. He is too young. But I also think that Australian cricket selectors shouldn't be scared of picking someone to drop them. And I think that this happens all throughout. Every player who is in the team right now has been picked to be and then dropped at some point.
Over the history of Australian cricket, nearly all of them get dropped at some stage and come back.
I've been trying to work it out. Is Alan Border, did he get dropped at any point? Because that's kind of where I've been, like, Ricky Ponting got dropped and...
Michael Clark got dropped.
Michael Clark got dropped and... lots of them got dropped.
Hayden got dropped.
Exactly. They had to force their way back in. But
probably not Gilly, but he was a different specialised kind of position. But yeah.
But this is exactly where Sam Constas is. I would say to him, I wouldn't pick him. I wouldn't pick him to drop him at the moment. But I would say to him, you play in every Australian A game. You play for New South Wales. You make it so that it is you cannot be stopped. You need to score all the runs possible, and you will get Usman Khawaja's spot when he retires, because he's 38 now, or will be in a couple of weeks. So that would be the position that I would have him ready for. The fact that we don't have a lot of openers available, I think we just have to pick what the Australian cricketers always say. We got to pick the top 6 batters. And at the moment, Nathan McSweeney is that batter. He has, almost 300 runs in Shield cricket this year. He scored a century, 250s, and then scored a century in the one day. He also got a duck, but we'll forget about that one. He showed that he has the temperament in that India A game. The way that he batted in the first innings, 39, but off 130 balls, while everyone else was falling around him. He just stayed out there and batted.
Cut away by McSweeney, beats the fielders.
Kept his position.
Classy shot.
I think this...
pulled away.
I think you're right and wrong about David Warner.
So who is this guy?
He was
Nathan
the best opener that we had at the time until now. But I think the issue that they had, and I thought Steve Smith would go to the top of the order and thrive, but obviously he hasn't. He had that one good game against West Indies where he almost won a game for Australia and everyone else collapsed. But you kind of at this point got to pick the top 6 batters, and I think Nathan McSweeney just shows that he has the temperament, that he is a test player, that he's a kid that I have never thought of, honestly, until I saw him in the Big Bash a couple of years ago, and he came in and was like, whoa, who's this kid? He looks really good. Like, he looks Marnus Labuschagne. He looks ready for that next level. But I just think they have to pick him. I don't know why there's still a debate going on. But where you bat him is the issue. Yeah. Do you want him to open? Do we move Labuschagne to the top? Do we move Head to the top?
I think he's basically settled the debate about who's going to get picked, at least sort of in the squad, in the team, to replace to straight up to replace Warner, regardless of where they play him. It is throwing the line to the wolves, or however you want to say it. And that's where I think of McSweeney, and I love some of his shot making as well. Like, he's got some classic shots. He looked very good against India A.
But he also looks unperturbed about facing dot balls.
That's what I mean.
And that's a problem as well.
That's
such a problem with the batters nowadays, because we've got such T20 that everyone faces 3 balls and then they want to ramp someone for 6 over the keeper's head. And it's like, come on, just show some mettle, face some maidens, see off the new ball.
Yeah, like, you can let the ball go. You can actually leave. Yeah.
And take it when it's there to hit, and that's what you try to teach kids when they're kids, but they seem to have forgot it by the time they get to test level.
we're sounding like Jeffrey Boycott here, but it is an important part of Test cricket. But look, and I think part of this actually shows a bigger issue with Cricket Australia, because when Steve Smith put his hand up, and whether he'd been scratching around a bit at number 4 anyway, but he said, I'm happy to try opening, and they gave him that opportunity. I thought it was going to last more than 2 series. And then now he goes, actually, I don't really want to do that anymore. Shouldn't somebody be telling batter, even I know he's a former captain and I know he's got a standing in the team and whatever. No, Steve, you wanted to be open. You're our opener, because we need someone to fill that spot.
He didn't really say that, though. The rest of them said, no, we don't want you to open anymore. But who's putting their hand up? Who's putting their hand up to open?
I understand why the team wanted him at number 4, but if he already put his hand up and said, I want to be the opener, he then doesn't get the right a year later to say, actually, no, I don't want to do it anymore, or however it went. It seems pretty clear he doesn't want to open anymore. So that experiment, it didn't really work. I was always nervous about it anyway. But like, you do need someone with temperament, and if a Constas is put in and gets brutalised by India, that could set him back a fair way. I'd like to see him do a bit more, in Shield cricket and some
But
of
that's
those
what I'd be
tours.
saying to him. This isn't your spot. You're not ready yet.
Yeah,
you're 19 and you played 6 matches.
But
play a bunch, score a lot of runs. Like, do what Marcus Harris does. But then when you get your shot in the test arena, make the most of it. And then when you get dropped, go and score more runs.
Yeah. Work on the technique, work on how they figured you out. But that sounds like succession planning. That's not a concept that Cricket Australia seems to be aware of.
This is the major problem that we've got coming up, because we've got Steve Smith getting towards the end of his career. He's not quite there yet, but you've seen the fall off in production from him.
He's close, 35.
But it's hard now. It's hard for him to score those big scores. He's not scoring a century. He's not bailing Australia out every 5 minutes. He's not able to do it. They've worked out Marnus.
Yeah, Marnus is shaky.
Marnus is struggling at the moment. Head is batting really well, but he's also a bit hit and miss. He's our Gilly at the moment.
And then look at the bowlers, mate. I'm worried about the bowlers, apart from Cummins.
Yeah,
but,
they're all 30.
Hazelwood and Stark. A lot of miles in those legs and arms, shoulders. This is what I'm saying.
Who do we have come in? Boland, who's also 30.
Yeah, that's the problem. A lot of the backup guys. I was having a chat with Matty Sullivan, our colleague, the other day about someone like Michael Nisa, who's just a fantastic cricketer. He's such a good cricketer, but I think he's now about 34.
Yeah.
And he would have got into a lot of test teams with his all-rounder. He is an all-rounder.
If he was at any other country. So Dan Worrell's going over and going to make the England team now. You have a Michael Nessa go over there. All of a sudden, it's like they would be laughing. He'd be batting 6. He'd be
mate. It'd be Freddie Flintoff Mark II for them.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be incredible. So look, there's a lot to unfold. I think McSweeney has earned that spot now.
Yeah,
and let's see how they do the order. But I reckon he'll be walking out with Uzi, and it's going to be baptism of fire in that Perth test.
But we need some succession right now, because we need to be able to fill these places, because Labuschagne has a little bit longer, but Steve Smith's getting towards the end of his career. Travis Head is probably he's not quite as old as Smith, but Mitchell Marsh isn't young.
Yeah, I think Travis has got a bit left. But look, I will say the selectors could turn around and say, boys, we've just won the World Test Championship. We've retained the Ashes. We've done X, Y, Z. That they'll say that we're doing things pretty right. But it's just the aging average of the team and how quickly you can turn it over. And let's see how competitive we are. We're going to know a lot more after this India series, I reckon.
Well, it's kind of fascinating where India are at the moment, that they lost a historic 3-0 to New Zealand, which
still can't believe
no one in the world would have seen. I can't believe they lost a test.
Yeah.
Let alone 3. It's crazy. But like that's India at the moment. They're aging as well. Virat Kohli isn't the batter he was. Rohit Sharma isn't the batter he was, and they haven't succession planned either. You got Jaiswal, who's doing really well, but it'll be really fascinating to see how they come here and turn it around. Because otherwise I think it's going to be a bit of a massacre for Australia, but I don't know that actually helps us in the long run.
I think they've won the last 2 series here, so bring it on.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's a good one.